chills.
Number 8. The Ant Gloves. The Sitire-Moawe Indians live deep in the Amazon jungles of Brazil, where they still practice brutal ancient customs to this day. Several times a year, boys as young as 12 have to go through an extremely painful initiation if they ever want to become respected as adults. These village kids have to wear painful gloves on both of their hands that have been filled with bullet ants. The bullet ant stings like a wasp. It hurts so bad that it feels like you are getting shot, hence the name. Scientists have even measured its sting to be 30 times worse than that of an American bee. The gloves themselves are made of tightly woven leaves with small holes on the inside. These holes are to keep the ants fixed in place with their stingers pointed towards the skin. Once the gloves go on, there's no escaping the hundreds of venomous stings from within. To get the ants into the holes without hurting them, they are first submerged into a mixture of liquid herbs that knocks them out. Then they are pushed one by one into tiny holes that hold them in place so that they can't move, only to sting over and over again. The Sitire-Moawe children must wear the ant gloves and endure the stinging pain for at least 10 minutes as they dance in a circle with medicine men and other tribe members, encouraging them to continue and not pass out. It can take up to 11 hours before all of the village children have been tested. By the end of the ceremony, their hands are black, swollen, and paralyzed. It's not uncommon for them to hallucinate or faint afterwards and feel numb for days. One boy said he felt so hot by the end of the ritual that water would become smoke if it touched his skin. Unfortunately, wearing the gloves just once is not enough. Boys are expected to perform this ritual no less than 20 times within a single year before they are considered tough enough to be a man. That's a lot of ant bites. Number 7. Land diving. When the yams become ripe on the Pentecost Island, it means that it's time for the Nagil ritual. Nagil translates into land diving. It is the Ngos tribe's way of becoming a man, and it is about as dangerous as it sounds, way more dangerous than the ant gloves of the Sitire-Moawe. For this ritual, boys as young as 8 years old must jump off a gigantic tower. The only thing keeping them from splattering below are 2 jungle vines wrapped around their ankles. The object of this ritual is to demonstrate their courage to the tribe. When a child's turn to jump comes, they are supposed to perform a speech that summarizes who they are and how they view the world, basically their last words. This is a very dramatic moment and all of their family is watching. When the time comes to jump, they must pray that the jungle vines they picked out with their family are moist enough to support their body weight without snapping. If they succeed, they dance with the rest of their tribe in the winner's circle as the ceremony continues. If the vine is too dry, it snaps, along with their neck. Like the ant gloves, jumping from the tower just one time is simply not enough to prove you are a man. You have to repeat the ritual every year. On top of that, it gets more dangerous every year. The tower has a series of platforms that go up to 70 feet. You start at 20 feet with your first jump and jump from 5 feet higher each year. Deaths and severe injuries are quite common. Number 6. Ritualized child abuse. Children of ancient societies were often taught harsh lessons so that they were better able to survive in a brutal and unforgiving world. The Spartans were taken from their mothers as children and used to serve food. They themselves were never given food, but they were beaten if they were ever caught eating. This was to teach young Spartan children at an early age to become tough and sneaky. 2 skills that would prepare them for the real world. Like the Spartans, the Sambia tribe of Papua New Guinea also prepares their children for adulthood, but their methods are even more shocking and grotesque. The Sambia tribe regards women as impure and contagious, which is why all boys are taken away from their mothers at the age of 7 to live with the village males. Over the next 10 years, they are subjected to a brutal series of rituals designed to rid them of any feminine impurities. First, they have a sharpened stick jabbed up their nostrils until a large amount of blood comes out to teach them to be strong and endure pain. The stick is not shoved through the nostril like a piercing, but rather straight up. If a boy tries to escape during the semi-lobotomy, they will be severely beaten and treated as a lesser being for their whole life. Number 5. Justifiable cannibalism. Papua New Guinea once again makes this list with the Kumbai, a jungle tribe with a wide variety of cultural traditions ranging from bizarre, using maggots to clean your ears, to dangerous ones. One ritual in particular, however, tops all of them. According to Kumbai values, you are legally allowed to commit murder if the circumstances are right. Not only that, but you are encouraged to eat the remains of your victim afterwards to claim their soul. Keep in mind that murder is still fundamentally wrong in their society, so you are not allowed to do this to just anyone. However, the Kumbai believe in magical witches known as Kakuwa Kumo, who eat the very souls of their victims. Since they eat the souls of their victims, the Kumbai believe it is only fair to eat their soul in return. The only problem is these witches take the shape of ordinary men, so they are sometimes hard to detect. One other thing, in Kumbai culture, the soul resides in the brain and in the stomach, so once a witch is discovered, these organs must always be eaten first. One tribesman explains how his father brutally murdered someone suspected of being a Kakuwakumo. First, his father tied the hands of the suspected witch. Next, he threw the witch in a river and shot him full of arrows, making sure not to kill them immediately. Instead, he drank river water which contained the blood as the man slowly died, and then decapitated him. The father then ate what he could. This story is recited by his own son with pride, not shame. In their culture, the man's father was defeating a great evil, not committing murder. Number 4. Temple sacrifices. When it comes to violent and disturbing rituals, the Mayans are one of history's most infamous cultures. This tribe was especially fearsome because their religious beliefs centered around pleasing the gods through numerous human and animal sacrifices. The Mayans feared that if they did not perform these sacrifices, then the gods would punish them and the world would plunge into chaos. To them, slaughtering others was a way to prevent the end of the world. Victims were painted blue, a color which represented sacrifice. Then they were marched up a large temple that was covered with animal and human remains, every step slickened with blood. At the top of the temple, a priest would be waiting for them with a knife carved from stone. One by one, the victims would be held down on a stone slab that was designed to push their chest upwards for easy access. The priest would make a deep incision under the left breast and rip into the wound with his bare hands. The pain must have been unbearable as the priest's hands searched inside the chest and grabbed the heart, which was pulled out while the victim is still alive and screaming. Afterwards, the body was usually thrown down the steps where it would be skinned by the priest's assistants. The priest would wear the skin and perform a ritual dance that symbolized reincarnation. If the sacrifice was a brave warrior or someone else of importance, then the body would be cannibalized so that groups of people could obtain its power. The hands and feet were worn by the priest as a trophy. Other variations included shooting the sacrificial victims with arrows, throwing them down bottomless pits, and burying them alive. Number 3. The Flaming Amazon. The Aztecs were another tribe heavily into gory sacrifices. Rabbits, dogs, insects, flowers, and even inanimate resources such as rubber and paper were all destroyed to keep various gods from becoming too upset. According to the Aztec legend, the gods sacrificed themselves so that mankind could prevail, and now they expected sacrifices in return, lots of sacrifices. In fact, the Aztecs believed that every 52 years the world would end unless enough human sacrifices were made, so there was no time to waste. Like the Mayans, the Aztecs liked to remove the hearts from their victims. Priests used a knife to cut out the heart instead of using their bare hands, which made it slightly less barbaric, but still incredibly painful. One god in particular, however, demanded extra suffering from his victims. In order to appease their god of fire, the Aztecs would set a group of victims ablaze and wait patiently as they slowly screamed and cooked. Before they died, the victims were removed from the fire at the last second and carried up to the temple. At the top of the temple, their hearts were cut out. It was important for the victims to be alive the entire time, or else the sacrifice would not work. If the Aztecs did not do this, they were certain that their civilization would be burned down by the vengeful fire god. Number 2. Mayan ball games. If the Mayans really didn't like you, they would literally make a game out of your death. The Mayans played a brutal recreation sport to pass the time that was like a mix between basketball and soccer. You were allowed to use your feet, hips, elbows, and any other part of your body besides your hands to knock the ball around a field. Points were scored by knocking the ball through a stone hoop that resembled a basketball net turned sideways. If you figured that the victims were forced to play against the Mayans to the death, that's a good guess, but you're absolutely wrong. The Mayans would never share their sport with a team of lowly sacrifice victims. That would be a disgrace to their culture and a giant waste of time. They would, however, use them as sports equipment to kick to death on the field. Like all sacrifices, the victims were first painted blue, then their arms, legs, and neck were very tightly tied together. They were now a living, breathing human ball. Number 1. Child sacrifices. The Aztecs take number 1 for their grisly child murder rituals. The Aztec god of water and rain was a very temperamental deity who constantly threatened to dry up crops and spread disease. Since this god controlled their water supply, this was a very important god, and the Aztecs wanted to please him the most. They reasoned the easiest way to do this would be to offer high-value sacrifices, in this case children, more specifically their tears. The children were sacrificed in a wide variety of ways, usually by removing the heart, but first they were made to cry. Their tears were the purest form of water that the Aztecs had to offer, and children were often forced to cry their tears over a fire before being murdered. These events were so popular that the Aztecs split them into 2 morbid festivals. From February 12th to March 3rd, countless children were marched to sacred mountaintops to have their hearts pulled out. If any of them cried on the way, their tears were seen as a good omen for strong rains. From March 24th to April 12th, hordes of children were marched into dark caves to be sacrificed. Priests would wear the skin of their sacrificed victims for 20 days leading up to the holiday. After the children were sacrificed, the priests would shed their skin wardrobes and leave them to rot in the caves.